Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with the ASU strike.
You have done your work, you have put us to the wall. We are not the slaves.
I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report. I have not seen the report. Live. It's a Friday, last business day or working day of the week, as we call it, and we just want to do more like a synopsis or a summary of most of the big stories from this weekend. Several of them actually, with the most pivotal, unarguably at this time, being the hardship occasioned by inflation, which of course had been preceded by the removal of fuel subsidy last year by President Bola Tinubu. Of course, time will fail us to run through all of the many issues as we now see, as Nigerians now experience, with some economic analysts now saying the figure of those who are in multi-dimensional poverty standing at 140 million. That's a lot of number, isn't it? Because at the point we had heard 133 million. But a few months ago, the World Bank had said on account of the degeneration, so to speak, of our economy, 4 million more Nigerians had been added to the 133 million bracket, which made it 137 million at that time. But fast forward to a few months down the line, we're hearing that figure stands at 140. But whatever the figure may be, there's no doubting the fact that millions of Nigerians are in dire straits right now on account of the challenges they have to grapple with on a daily basis. Not so many families or households can boast about being able to put food on the table, even one meal, on a daily basis. So that's how challenging it has gotten right now. We've seen and heard about cases where some persons, Nigerians, everyday people, all right, breaking into shops, some of them taking advantage or plundering some trucks, all right, just to take advantage, make the most that they can, grab bags of food and related items just to be able to survive, because now it's more of survival than flamboyance or opulence. And that's how interesting it has been. We're going to talk to you so much about many of these issues today. Efforts being made as well by government, whether at the federal or subnational level, to also ameliorate the pain of citizens. But first, let's join Fatima Umar as we bring you Taste and Texture.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Taste and Texture. I'm Fatima Abu Umar. Plantain puff puff. Nothing beats homemade puff puff. This version of puff puff is made by adding plantains together with yeast butter, and they turn out soft, savory and sweet. They are fresh, soft and chewy. Not to mention, they are super easy to make and absolutely delicious. You will get addicted. If you like plantains and puff puff, then you will love this plantain puff puff. Make sure you make enough of this to go around. How to achieve a perfect plantain puff puff? In order to achieve the perfect texture of your plantain puff puff, you will need these ingredients: 2 plantains overripe, half onion medium, 1 habanero pepper or scotch bonnet, 2 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar optional, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of yeast. Blend the onions, habanero pepper and plantains until a smooth batter is formed. Set aside in a large bowl. Combine the flour, sugar, salt and yeast. Pour the blended butter and warm water into the flour mixture and mix until they well combined. About 1 minute. Cover and leave the mixture with fitting lid or a plastic wrap and leave to rise for at least 1 hour or until the batter has risen about twice its original size. Mix the dough once again to remove most of the trapped air. Preheat the oil in a deep pan about 375 degrees. Start frying in small batches. Don't crowd the oil. Cook until the puff-puff becomes golden brown and fluffy. Turn in a couple of times to fry evenly on all sides. Drain on a paper towel and serve immediately. Serve with a cup of tea, juice, coffee or wine. Coat with sugar or honey or dip in a sauce. Well, sugar is optional. And now to the health benefits. 1. Good source of fiber. The key ingredients of puff-puff is flour. Flour is rich in dietary fiber, which helps to keep your digestive system healthy by helping to prevent constipation and hemorrhoids caused by straining on the toilet. It also promotes regular bowel movement and lowers blood cholesterol level. Good source of energy. Puff-puff is good source of carbohydrates, which your body uses for energy. Carbohydrates are broken down into glucose molecules during digestion. They are then absorbed into cells, metabolized into energy, or stored as glycogen in the liver or muscle tissues. A good source of vitamins and minerals. When puff-puff is made with the right ingredients, including veggies, it becomes a good source of vitamins and minerals. A healthy puff-puff pastry contains decent amounts of micronutrients such as iron, copper, vitamin K, vitamin B, manganese, selenium, thiamine, phosphorus, zinc, and magnesium. Puff-puff is incomplete without eggs. These eggs serve as a good source of protein. However, the protein tend to get from puff-puff is small due to the small number of eggs used in making puff-puff. Perfect light snack. Puff-puff can serve as a perfect light snack when you don't want to consume heavy food. See you same time next time for another mouth-leaking episode of Taste and Texture.
Fatima, thank you so much for that recipe on how to make plantain puff-puff. Never heard about that, but I'm not so sure. I want to try it out just this weekend, but that's so beautiful to look at. I'm sure it even tastes better for those who want to try it out as quickly as possible. Just to let you know that we also will be bringing you paper headlines this morning, just to let you know what the news looks like and what is being done. In light of being able to fix the challenges that Nigerians are dealing with every other day. We understand that customs will begin distribution of food items. I mean, those food items that had been seized today. Now, if you put that differently, what it means is starting from today, the Nigeria Customs Service will begin distribution of seized food items. Now, this was declared yesterday by the Controller General of Customs, Dewale Adeniyi, when he talked about how that first, these food items are for the benefit of Nigerians who desperately need this sort of lifeline. And he said, as such, it should not be resold, which means that when you get it, if you turn out to be a beneficiary of it, you are not expected to sell it. All right, that's number one. Number two is he has also warned very sternly that customs officers are not allowed, they are banned from partaking in it. We hope all of these works. This is a good intention, this is commendable, but the modality for distribution is as critical as the intention and the motive in the first instance. All right, now we'll move it to the Southwest, the Lagos State in particular, where we now understand that the state government under the leadership of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is now saying that workers can work 3 days from home. I mean, they can work 3 days, which means they can report for work 3 days a week. Some are even allowed to work from home. In other words, basically for those who have been permitted to come to work for 3 days a week, they can spend the other 2 days working from home. This is forward thinking, this is innovative, this is also very responsive given where we are as a country, and Lagos State's government is taking the lead in ensuring that life becomes bearable, or at least a little easier for Lagosians in particular and Nigerians in general. That's very commendable. We hope other states would take a cue from this. They may not necessarily follow the same exact model, but they can be creative enough to find ways around ensuring that their citizens find life more meaningful and easier to live. I mean, this is the reason you are the governor now. I mean, talking to other governors, this is the reason you were voted into office. This is what it means when we say provide leadership. It is for trying periods such as this. So it's very important that we take a look at that. And it's also of, very pertinent that we get to remind the Nigerians that, look, we can't just be running to the federal government, what some people call the center, for every little problem, every big problem, and every problem in between both, because we have state governors, we have local governments. Yes, we can always fight and quarrel and argue, debate about how the local government system is dysfunctional or is broken in Nigeria. But when it's all said and done, we have several states across this country today where you have local government systems, where you have local government chairmen and all other members of the executive. So what are they doing in light of what is happening right now? We have to answer, they have to answer to that question. What are the governors doing with all of the security vote that they have? Because don't forget, we have also said that there's a close correlation, very fundamental correlation between hardship, such as Nigerians are experiencing right now, and insecurity or crime rate. So when people become so desperate, they are going to activate, their survival instinct kicks in, and at that point in time, morals and ethics are not going to count for much anymore for them. So what that means is governors must realize that if there's any time you are expected to put your security votes to work, it is now. That's very important. We know of, for example, governors who receive as much as 1 billion every month as security votes, for which they are not necessarily held to account. All right, so what happens with all of that money? And these monies, these are monies we've been collecting for several months. Some governors have been collecting these monies for years. There are governors who have been collecting these monies for as long as 6, 7, 8 years. All right, so what's the point? The point here is this is the best time perhaps to do right by your own people. At the point sometime last year, the federal government had also talked about, making 5 billion naira available to states. That may not solve the problem of the world, but it does make a difference in terms of how governors can administer public good to their people. Nobody is saying at this point give scholarship. Nobody is saying, install air conditions on the streets. What is being asked of state governments right now is take a bold step, do the needful, all right, by ensuring that the basic things, the essentials are made available for your people. The allocation that you get from the center, from the federation accounts must count for something. The security vote that you receive on a month-to-month basis must make a difference in ways that are remarkable. Your IGRO, your internally generated revenue, all right, must make a positive impact in ways that we can put a finger on in the lives of those for whom you say you provide leadership. Right now, time to join Kikelomo Okere so we can bring you a business roundup.
Hello and welcome to Business Report on Global Morning. The parallel market exchange rate has experienced a significant decline, plummeting to a record low of 1,960 naira per euro, driven by persistent demand pressure that continue to erode the currency value. This marks a notable decrease of 5.36% or 105 naira compared to 1,855 naira rate recorded the previous day at the black market. This depreciation stands as an unprecedented occurrence, representing the low point in the historical performance of the naira against euro. Concurrently, black market exchange rates have continued to witness the devaluation of the Nigerian naira, exacerbated by a substantial surge in inflation, as reported by the National Bureau of Statistics for January 2024. The inflation rate surged to 29.90%. Stock trading on the Nigerian bourse commenced on a slightly positive note, rising by 19 billion naira. The market is defying analysts' expectation that will be reversed to bearish route today. Investors were seen buying banking stock like Fidelity Bank, GT Company, Zenith Bank, and Sterling that are leading early gain. In 1,939 deals, investors exchanged 40,400,000 37,723 shares worth 1.239 billion naira. UBA, GT Company, Wema Bank, Access Holding and Transcorp were actively traded as at 11 a.m. on Thursday. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) has warned that the official exchange rate may further depreciate by 35% this year, adding that this could lead to inflation rate peaking at 44% before the monetary policy tightening could bring the situation under control. IMF noted that the nation's monetary policy is currently insufficient tightening to bring inflation below 20%, while pressure on the naira persists. The report noted that amid the absence of local production and the recent liberalization of commodity imports, the exchange rate will likely depreciate further. IMF says Nigeria had been hit by another adverse climate shock in early 2024, following severe flood in late 2022, which exacerbated the current weakness in agriculture and led to a decline in output and a surge in food prices. According to the Bretton Woods Institution, the country would benefit from developing a comprehensive macroeconomic and growth strategy in collaboration with the support from development partners. A report by blockchain research platform Chainalysis has revealed that a total of $22.2 billion was laundered globally through different cryptocurrency exchange in 2023. The report, however, indicated that this was a significant decrease from the $31.5 billion laundered through digital currency in 2022. According to the report, the drop could be attributed to an overall decrease in crypto transaction volume, both legitimate and illicit. Several industry experts have argued that the anonymity of trade on blockchain technologies make it veritable tools for money laundering. This has led to repeated calls for crypto regulation in Nigeria by stakeholders. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Thank you, Kike, for that reporting there on business. Queen Agaba will be here at 11 o'clock West Africa time later this morning to bring you a fuller package across the world of business and economy. Just a while ago, I was talking about food and the challenges that have now followed this crisis that have been on for several weeks and just gets more intense with each day that passes. Now, we understand there's a back and forth between President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and some governors, particularly in this case, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State. Now, question is, what exactly is the issue between both? The Senate President says, well, the federal government had disbursed some excess of 1 trillion naira, yes, over 1 trillion naira to governors across the country, with each of them, according to Godswill Akpabio, receiving 30 billion. Yes, 30 billion for each state received by the governor, these respective governors on behalf of the states. But just yesterday in Oyo State, the governor of the state, Seyi Makinde, said there was never a time that he can attest to the fact that governors never received 30 billion naira, of course, as his response to the statement credited to President of the Senate, Akpabio. However, the thing is, whether or not what the President of the Senate has said is true, the governors of these different states must realize more than ever before that they practically owe it a responsibility to cater to the needs of their people. It's also a shame already now that we got here first before we started talking about whether or not governors should do anything about this. We can't be dragging the president. We can't be dragging the federal government every other time. There's no doubt in the fact that the federal government has its fundamental roles, particularly in light of the Constitution, that it must play. It has goods it must deliver to the people. Again, especially in light of the fact that this government is running on the mantra of the renewed hope agenda. So it's only pertinent to mention that if there has ever been a time where the hope of Nigerians should not only be renewed but sustained, it is now. So that is not in doubt on any level. However, we have to drill down to the states, the subnationals as they are called, and ask very practical, salient, valid questions as to what these governors are doing to ameliorate the plight of their people. At this point, let's be clear, Nigerians are not asking for good roads just yet. They are not asking for some world-class functional hospitals just yet. They are saying, can we just have food, basic necessities, as my mom will call them, so we can be alive first, and then we can talk about, have conversations around all of the other things, healthcare, education, infrastructure, social security, and so on and so forth. So that's where we are right now. And then in between all of these, you have arguments around, do we have food enough in Nigeria to cater to our citizens? Can we provide enough food locally? No, we need to import food. No, we don't need to import food. Now, there's the argument, again, that, look, this is an emergency. Whether you're going to import food, whether you're going to open up the storehouses, the food reserves in this country, the important thing is Nigerians must have food. And they have those saying, well, the problem is not availability of food. There is food everywhere. Nigerians farm a lot, end to end, south to north. However, it is the price of food that is a problem, no availability. Just yesterday, the vice president was on national television. He was talking about how that the problem we're dealing with was occasioned by food smuggling. In other words, he was saying, look, blame it on smugglers. But much as we can have that conversation all night, the important thing we must know, which the president also needs to realize, is that we have always had smuggling, just like we have as much smuggling in food as we have in petroleum products and everything else. So if you think people are smuggling food, it has always been here. It didn't start yesterday. Yes, we can check that. We can deal with that. We can find a way to tackle that. However, we can't blame the problem we're having today with food crisis squarely on smuggling. Well, like I said a while ago, we're going to look at the papers for you in the course of the show this morning. And then, of course, we have the Global AM News right up ahead for you. In the meantime, we're joining Anthony Momodu to bring you a snapshot of sports.
Hello, sport fans. Welcome to Sports News Update. Robert Lewandowski is back, but so is Victor Osimhen, and that means crisis clubs Barcelona and Napoli will have to settle their last 16 Champions League tie in 3 weeks' time in the second leg. Lewandowski made it 4 straight games, scoring with his 12th goal of 2024 to put Barcelona ahead on the 61 minutes, and it was no more than they deserved after dominating the first hour. But it woke Napoli up, and starting his first game of the year for the Italian champions, Osimhen majestically spun Inigo Martinez 15 minutes from time and buried his shot past Marc-Andre Stegen to level on the night. It was difficult to know who was happier. Barca had their away draw, but had played so poorly for most of the game, Napoli had maybe taken away more than they deserved. Arsenal have it all to do in the return leg of their last 16 Champions League clash against Porto after suffering a 1-0 defeat in Portugal on Wednesday. The Gunners struggled to create chances, failing to register a shot on target in 90 minutes as Galeno coiled in a brilliant long-range effort late on. Porto's experience showed through against Arsenal's young stars as the hosts pulled off a hard-fought victory to give the Portuguese side a slim lead at the Estadio do Dragão. Mikel Arteta's side have their work cut out if they want to progress to the Champions League quarterfinals when the two teams meet in the reverse fixture at the Emirates. Dani Alves has been jailed for 4.5 years after being convicted of raping a woman at a Spanish nightclub. The disgraced former Barcelona star was told he had been found guilty this morning at the Barcelona court, where he was tried earlier this month after being driven to court in a police van. The 40-year-old father of two, who will appeal the verdict is now facing his first night behind bars as a convicted sex offender. He had been held on remand at Brainstool prison near the Catalan capital since his arrest in January last year. Alves protested his innocence on February 7th after taking the stand on the last day of his 3-day trial at Barcelona's Audiencia Provincial Court. He admitted to having sex in a toilet at the upmarket Barcelona nightclub Sutton on December 30, 2022, with his 23-year-old female accuser, but insisted it was consensual. The woman he was today found guilty of raping confirmed Alves had forced himself on her when she gave her evidence in court behind her screen. Xabi Alonso would prefer to join Bayern Munich over Liverpool, but remains firmly focused on seeing out the season with Bayer Leverkusen, according to reports. The highly rated Alonso finds himself at the center of a tug-of-war between the two heavyweight clubs after leading Leverkusen to the cups of the Bundesliga title. His side hold an 8-point advantage over champions Bayern and recently beat them 3-0, a result that proved one of the final nails in Thomas Tuchel's coffin. After a disastrous week that saw Bayern fall to 3 straight defeats, including a 1-0 loss to Lazio in the Champions League and a costly slip-up at Bochum, the club confirmed they had decided to part ways with Tuchel at the end of the campaign. Mail Sport understand that Alonso is their number one choice. Talking tennis, and the Murray's future will come under further scrutiny after he lost in the second round of the Qatar Open to teenager Jacob Mensik. Murray has repeatedly said he is not about to retire after a horror run of form, but the fierce competitor inside him will not be able to put up with too many more defeats like this. At one point, appearing to shout to his team, "This game is not for me anymore." Murray, whose first round win over Alexandre Muller on Tuesday was his first victory since October, was beaten 7-6, 7-6, 6-7 in over 3 hours by the 18-year-old. The Scot will have nightmares about a volley he missed on a set point in the first set tiebreaker, and then the way he lost the final set tiebreaker after fighting back will frustrate him. And that's how we call it a wrap on the Sports News Update. I am Anthony Momodu.